What is going on, everybody? Welcome into the Jets Afterburners podcast. I am your host, Liam. I am being joined by my wonderful co-host, NYJD16, which is actually, ironically, also the birth name of my firstborn son. Hi,
Dad.
Hola. So,
hello.
Mr. Dan, how are you doing, my friend?
I am amped. Season is almost underway, and we have a ridiculous, out of the ballpark guest. A lot of people try to get this guy. They all swing and miss. But you know what? This guy is the creme a la creme. And you know what? Without further ado, I mean, you may know him from SNY spitting facts about the Jets, where so many other journalists are kind of trepidatious on talking about certain aspects of the Jets, but not this guy. Connor Hughes always brings the fire. Connor, what's up, my man?
I appreciate you guys. Thank you so much for the intro. It means a lot. Thank you so much for having me.
We appreciate you, man. I mean, again, we love hearing you. We always enjoy when you're on TV and you're one after another.
Yeah.
Bah, 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 bah.
Yeah.
So we love it, man. Welcome aboard.
Thank you so much, guys. Thank you so much.
Certainly. So I know we only got you for a couple minutes here. I have a list of questions, as does Dan.
Yeah, 100%. Let's go.
Real quick, the first question I wanted to get into was, I'm sure you listened to the interview that Robert Salah did for Boomer and Gio, where he really just spoke about all of his shortcomings and said that every time, last year fell apart, anytime I tried to make it better, it got worse. Admitted all of his shortcomings. So what difference have you seen from Robert Salah and the other coaches this year that he's doing different?
So with Robert, I think his biggest issue, his first couple of years here with the Jets, was that he cared too much about uncontrollables. So I think that when he first arrived, he assumed he'd be able to control the narrative, that anything that was going to come out of the building was only going to be things that were going to come out from what he said and what he wanted. And when that started to change, and that wasn't necessarily the case, I think he started to scramble a little bit to try to fix it, and then started worrying about things that he didn't need to worry about, and it kind of fell apart. As a coach, I don't think he's ever been somebody that's lost the respect of the players. It's not a situation like you have a little bit with the Giants and Brian Dable, where Dable had a tendency to alienate some of his staff. That's not the case with Robert Salah at all. I think that it's just this year he has a better understanding and seems like he has a better overall okayness, if that's a word, with letting the things that he can't control go be what he can't control, and he's going to focus on the things that he can. And that's a little bit of where I think he got in trouble a bit last year. And this year it truly is all about football, and it's all about coaching this team and winning games. And I also think he realizes that at the end of the day, no matter how nice he is, no matter how good he is with certain aspects of his job, the only thing that really matters is winning football games. And he'll do wonders with this team, with this organization, as long as he does that. And if he doesn't, he's going to be coaching somewhere else next year.
Well, that's the common narrative with Jet fans. Not for nothing, this is an all-in year, right? And you look at this roster, and we're stacked across the board.
Yes, you are. Yeah.
The thing is that where a lot of Jet fans, including myself, we're kind of looking at the head coach and we're saying, what has he learned the past 3 years, right? Is he going to take that next step? Because again, he's going to be coaching against the Reeds, the McVays, all these top-notch head coaches in the playoffs. If we want to look at Super Bowl, it's not only Rodgers in between the lines, it's Salah actually coaching. And again, correct me if I'm wrong, because again, I'm just some bystander looking at the game as a fan. But when I see a head coach just going up and down sidelines, not headphones, and again, a playbook here, like, all right, guys, look, it's a defense or what. It just seems to me as if, I know this is not the case, that he's not lost.
Yeah.
But it just seems like, what are you doing? Is it just delegating? Like, Ulbrich, you do this, and Hackett, you do that. And I'm over here just running up and down the stairs before games.
Yeah, it's funny. Like I played golf with Salah a few weeks ago, and that actually came up a little right before camp. And that actually came up because he's heard that criticism. He's absolutely heard that criticism, because in San Francisco, he was the guy that was screaming and yelling and fired up and flexing and and it was like that passion. And then here with the Jets, there hasn't been that passion. And he said, the one thing that he was not necessarily turned off by or anything like that, but it's just that there hasn't been too many opportunities for him to scream and yell, because he's not an angry screamer. It's that they celebrate. And when he was with San Francisco, when he started, obviously he brought his get back coach with him here to the Jets, is that he had a lot of things to be cheerful of when they were winning a lot of games in San Francisco. And that hasn't necessarily been the case here with the Jets. But when there has been that moment, like when Xavier Gibson ran back the touchdown against the Bills with the punt, he's the first one in the end zone. Now, he is, and it's what the Jets wanted when they hired him, is that they wanted more of a CEO type guy, right? Like that's what they wanted from him. They wanted a guy that was going to oversee the operation. I do think what you will see this year is him having a more hands-on approach. And it's a bit similar if you compare to the Giants now with Brian Daboll taking back play calling. If he's going to get fired and go down with the ship, he's going to go down running his offense and calling his plays. With Robert, I know that he trusts Nathaniel Hackett a lot because Aaron trusts Nathaniel Hackett a lot. And I know that he trusts Jeff Ulbrich for justifiably so. I mean, Ulbrich should be getting head coach consideration. I think he's that good of a defensive mind. But I do believe that in games you're going to see him more involved directly with players. I think his big concern, though, his first couple of years was that he just didn't want to step on guys' shoes. I always didn't want to step on guys' feet. Where like he trusts Jeff Ulbrich to go run the defense. He doesn't want it to come off to the players like, okay, things are a little off. I'm now stepping over Jeff. Listen to me. You know what I mean? Like I don't think he wanted to come off like that. And I think you will see him be more involved, though, in an understanding of the right way to do that. Where it doesn't give off that impression or perception.
Now, he also said that he was going to be more hands-on with the offense, and even today he said that he was with the offense more than the defense. Mm-hmm. What does that look? What does a Robert Salah involved in the offense look like?
He's in the meetings. I mean, like he's not going to call on the plays. Like I think it's just it's more just he's around more. His presence is felt more. He's not just sitting in the defensive meetings, which again, it's understandable because it's what he knows. He's a defensive-minded guy. Like, that's why he's there. That's why he's in these meetings. That's the side of the ball that he knows more than anything else. He's never been an offensive coordinator. He's never been a quarterback's coach. Like, that's not his background. So you tend to, in a new situation, the new situation being head coach, you tend to gear towards what you know. This year, though, he has been more involved. He's been making his presence felt. He's been letting them know what he wants the offensive identity to be. While also then saying, okay, look, Nathaniel, do your thing. Todd, you do your thing. Aaron, you do your thing. And letting those guys certainly step up in the ways that they will.
So he's definitely making suggestions and stuff?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, he's letting it. I mean, again, like he's not stepping in and saying, hey, guys, I want, this specific play called. But I think when it comes to the identity and what he wants to accomplish, he's letting that be known, yeah.
All right. Now, how focused, though, is this team? Is it something where, let's say, God forbid, they lose 3 in a row and it just starts unraveling? Or is it something where they could right this ship? I know they have a lot of opponents that we look at. Again, us Jet fans have no business looking at a schedule and saying, oh, that's easy. That's easy. No, not at all. But in all honesty, we look at our roster and we could actually kind of weigh the balance in our favor and say, all right, you know what? If 2 or 3 games go bad, does this team have that fortitude to say, you know what, let's right this thing?
That's a really good question. And I don't think you'll ever know the answer until you see it, until this team is 1-3 or the team is 2-4. And it gets down to, as Gase used to say, nut cutting time. And you need to figure out if they're going to pull themselves out or if they're going to sink. I believe Aaron is the type of guy that will pull people out. I think Tyron Smith, Morgan Moses will be guys that pull them out. Some of the players that have been lifetime jetters to this point, like Quinnen Williams, like I don't. Yeah, it's tough because he's never been a part of a championship team in the NFL or a playoff run with the NFL. So that's why you bring those guys in from other organizations. But that's a really good question. I wish I had the answer for you, but I don't necessarily know because you got to see it first. Now, I will say the last 2 years, I don't think the Jets totally folded in on themselves completely. Like there were multiple times 2 years ago when Mike White took over, right? And he kind of got them back in the race a little bit where they didn't just totally give up on themselves. Last year, up until they lost to Miami, they kind of still were in it a little bit where they had a chance to maybe make a playoff run and get Aaron back and see what they're going to do. I haven't gotten the sense that they've totally rolled over on themselves, and I think that's one of the big reasons why there hasn't been significant staff changes aside from when Woody made them get rid of Michael LaFleur. But other than that, I think that's probably a sign where you can feel a little optimistic on it. But honestly, guys, you're not going to know until that moment comes up. And I do believe that as long as you have – now, if I'm being completely honest with you guys, I think this team's talented enough where they're not going to face too many of those situations where their big tests are going to be you're down a touchdown in the fourth quarter, offense has the ball, they got to go after it. Like what's going to happen? I think that's where you're going to see them really be tested because – I do think they're talented enough where it's hard to see them being 1-4. I really do believe that. Like I think it's crazy to say because of how bad this team has been for probably the last 13 years or so, aside from 2015.
15 years.
But yeah, they've been good enough right now where I think they're talented enough where they're going to avoid a lot of those situations where it's hard to see them being 1-4, 2-5, something like that.
Gotcha.
Now, what players are kind of falling under the radar that have a legitimate chance at making the 53? Maybe some that we're not even talking about right now, if any.
Yeah, I get asked this all the time, and it's so hard to answer it because, like, the players that I think are locks or the players that are good maybe aren't on the opinion of on the mind of fans. Like, I did a thing with MYJ, Matt, and Mike where they asked me the same question. Like, it's so much easier if you guys give me players and you like ask if like you think this guy's on the roster, you think that guy's in the roster bubble. Eric Watts is the one that kind of flashed a lot in OTAs and minicamp. I think he's come back down to earth a little bit where I'm not so sure of his roster chances. Tack McKinley has been a guy who's really turned some heads. I think he, again, I don't know, he's going to have 5 to 6 sacks this year, but I think he's going to be a rotational defensive lineman for the Jets, or has a good chance to make the team and be a rotational defensive lineman. Jason Brownlee, I'm not sure of his roster chances. I think he's somebody that could potentially be on the outside looking in and maybe a practice squad guy. Just he's struggled a little bit at times with the nuances of the offense and was one of the guys that struggled quite a bit in that really bad day the Jets had before their joint practice with the Giants. So he's one I could potentially see being on the outside looking in. Kenny Yeboah is somebody that I'm curious to see if he makes the roster just in terms of how many tight ends the Jets keep because they have Zach Kuntz as well. But those guys are probably, and I don't think they'll keep 3 quarterbacks. I think Jordan Travis will stay on the PUP list and they'll cut the other 2 guys and they'll go in with just 2 with Aaron and Tyrod.
I was just going to ask you about that. Yeah, with the quarterbacks.
Yeah, I think they'll just keep 2.
Martinez looks all right, though. I mean,
yeah, but here's my thing, guys, and this is the important thing to remember. And I actually learned this very early on in my career because I was like, oh my God, this guy's covering. I think it might have been Jordan Renan, who covers the Giants for ESPN at the time, was with the Ledger, told me this. Is I was like, oh my God, how can they let this player go? This guy's having such a good camp. This guy's having such a good camp. He goes, Connor, in order for them not to be able to get that guy in the practice squad, some other team needs to say, we're going to put him on the 53. I don't think anyone's going to put Martinez on their 53-man roster because he's not going to be anyone's number 2 quarterback. And how many teams are actually going to keep 3 quarterbacks? So you can get him onto the practice squad. When compare that to a Xavier Gibson like last year, someone might put him on like the perfect example, Jason Pinnock. The Jets thought they were going to be able to get him to the practice squad. Giants claim him, and now he's their starting safety and looks like a pretty good player. So when it comes to those quarterbacks, when you're talking about a guy, well, can you get him? If you can't foresee some team saying he's going to be our backup 1 hit away from being our starting quarterback, odds are I can get him to the practice squad.
Now, just one more guy before I toss it back over to Dan. Izzy Abataconda, is he somebody that's kind of on the bubble?
I don't think he's going to make the team, no. I think he's a good practice squad guy if somebody else doesn't claim him. But I have a very hard time seeing him make the roster just because We've all talked about Braylon Allen, and he does look really good. Isaiah Davis looks really good too.
Yes.
It's unfortunate that, well, not unfortunate, maybe that's the wrong choice of words, but the way that Braylon Allen has played has kind of taken a lot of the spotlight away from being like, Isaiah Davis looks pretty good too. I mean, Isaiah Davis isn't as big. You don't look at him and this, like, you look at Braylon Allen, you're like, holy shit, like, look at that. That guy is a freaking, like, just monster. You don't feel that way about Isaiah Davis. But then Isaiah Davis has been getting first team reps dating back to OTAs. And he's still getting the first team reps now. And he's made some good plays in the preseason. Like, he looks like a very, very impressive player who also makes a lot of plays on special teams. So it depends on how, again, if they keep, say, 3 tight ends, 2 quarterbacks, maybe they trim the secondary some. Like, maybe you could get Izzy on there. But Izzy, going back to OTAs, going back to minicamp, has almost exclusively been working with the third team and maybe a rep here or there with the 2s, when Isaiah, Braylon, Brees obviously are all working with the 1s. So he's one that's a good name. I'm glad you brought that up because, again, he's somebody that escapes my mind. Like, yeah, I don't think he's making the team. Like, you just kind of forget about him. I do think he'll end up on the practice squad, but I kind of have a hard time seeing him on the 53 right now.
Now, we have a whole bunch of questions on the chat. We also have Johnny Boy in the back right now. But before we get to those questions, I want to ask you a real big one. This is for, again, just reeling this one back to the star of the show of this whole entire Jets franchise. Now, do you sense that Rodgers understands the magnitude of what he can become in New York if he wins a Super Bowl and becoming like an icon as to what Mark Messier is to the Rangers? I mean, you talk about Rangers automatically, 94, Messier.
Yeah.
Hoisting that, Stanley Cup, laughing, that big smile. Do you think Aaron Rodgers sees that, envisions it, or do you see him winning the Super Bowl and then just kind of retiring, going to the Hall of Fame as a Green Bay Packer as if this Jets thing never happened?
It's a good question. I haven't actually talked to him about that yet, but that's something I'll definitely bring up to him. Because I think it's a fascinating question. My conversations with him have largely centered around the fact that he just wants to win. And he's with the Jets because I think he believed in it. They do. The Jets gave him the best chance to win. And this was an organization that, honestly, at the time they acquired Aaron Rodgers, I looked at it very similarly to when Brady went to the Bucs, where it was like they had everything but the quarterback, and then you add the quarterback and look what they accomplished. I saw it very similarly with Aaron. I think for him, he looks at this as not necessarily Woody, but I do believe that he feels like he owes this organization something because of coming in here last year, the hype with last year, the good feelings, the way that everything was trending at such a high, and then 4 plays in, it's all over. That really does resonate and hang over his head, that he feels like he owes this team and this fan base something to come out there and ball out and give them the season this year that they were supposed to have last year. Now, the one thing that he said publicly and the one thing he's reiterated when I've talked to him is that he's always been on board with 3 years or 2 years. I'm sorry, was 2 years, give the Jets 2 years and then reassess where we are. And I don't think anyone ruled out 3-4 years. I know that, again, when I first started talking to people within the Jets building about this, they said, there's a chance he plays 4. We'll see on that, especially if they win a Super Bowl. Like, I think that might change things. But his whole thing was, I'm going to give them 2 seasons. He does not view last year as year 1. He does not use, because that doesn't count. It's that he's hurt, played 4 snaps, and was done. Doesn't count. That's not a season. It's this year and next year, then reassess where things are. So you got him this year, you got him next year, reassess and see if he still feels good and wants to keep playing. I know that he hasn't ruled out playing 4 or 5 years. I know the Jets, certainly if he wants to play 4 or 5 years, they'll welcome him back with open arms, barring a fire sale of, not fire sale, I'm sorry, but kind of just letting everybody go. But yeah, I think that's probably that's kind of where things stand with that. It's a good question though, because I haven't really thought about that. I don't know if that weighs on his mind at all. I don't know that. That's a great question. I'll look into that.
Now, if they do win the Super Bowl this year, do you see him coming back like Brady did, or do you think it's Super Bowl and done?
I think he would come back still.
Yeah.
I think that there's, if depending on the season he has, I think there's a chance that, now again, there's so many things that he's interested in outside of the NFL that maybe those things come into play. Like, I mean, hell, the guy almost ran for vice president this year. Like, this is wild shit that I never thought I'd be talking about with an NFL
Only
player.
The Jets. Only the Jets.
Yeah, and that was real, man. Like, that was absolutely real.
Yes,
I was saying that too. I said,
very real possibility.
Can our quarterback not run for president, please? Like, is
Why
that
not?
too much to ask?
Yeah,
He goes
right.
for
Like that was
crypto.
close to happening too. Like that's the wild. Like people don't talk about that. Like no, that was very close to being a thing. Like that was a thing. I don't like. That's what's wild to me is like I don't. There could be some wild second. He's like, yeah, I got my 2. I'm definitely a first ballot Hall of Famer. I gave the Jets their Super Bowl, and I'm going to ride off. But I think there's part of him that probably would be like, let's go get another. Like, F it, let's go get another. And this team is built where they're again, if they win, Woody's going to open Woody's thing is that he will open up the checkbook once you show you're deserving of getting the checks. And that's one of the reasons why things were a lot tighter this offseason was because the Jets haven't been winning. So why is Woody going to keep writing these blank checks? He's basically like, show me, and then you can get more money again. If they win, it'll be whatever the hell you guys want, go do it. And I think that's the case. You look at some young players on the team that are only going to keep getting better. You confuse the roster with more talent. Like the Jets aren't built like this is a 1 year and done.
Right.
They need to fix up the offensive line still, but you figure Fashanu eventually replaces Tyron Smith at left tackle. You just need to go find another right tackle. Other than that, they're young in the right places. Where I think this could be a team that's good for a while if things go well, and I think Aaron would probably want to be a part of that.
I love it. Now, this is the part of the show where we just open it up to questions and whatnot. We're going to bring up Johnny Boy. What's up, my man?
Hey, what's going on, Dan? What's going on, Liam? Connor, big fan, man. Hey,
what's up, Knicks. Buddy? How you doing, man?
Doing great. Love the shirt, man.
I appreciate it, dude. Let's go Knicks, man.
Let's go Knicks.
Proudly.
So I just have 2 quick questions for you.
Yeah.
After watching the One Jets drive, I've been saying that it felt like a giant montage of a show for CJ Mosley. When I was looking at that, it seemed like it was his last dance montage, right? Yeah. Have you heard any rumblings in regard? I know it's the beginning of the season. Because I'm a big CJ Mosley fan.
Yeah.
Does it seem like this is his last dance, right? And then second question, first and foremost, thank you so much for talking about Woody Johnson and him not being scared to open up the checkbook, because I think that's huge, and it's an undervalued thing in regard to Woody Johnson. But the tight end room, we know that it's Conklin and we know that it's Ruckert. So the battle for tight end 3 between Kuntz and Yeboah, what are the talks in regards of those?
Yeah, so I think that with Mosley, I actually asked him that in the joint practice in Charlotte, and he laughed. He's like, that's the first retirement question I've gotten. So I think he's one that if the Jets won the Super Bowl, I could see him riding off. I could see him being like, I'm done. Like that's one where I'm done. But if he's still playing at such a high level and he's still so good, but he's one that's an interesting way you put that. I think it's possible, but we'll see. With the third tight end, I don't know if Kuntz is going to make it. I don't. I think that if they give it to somebody, it's going to be Yeboah. Just because you saw, I think it was one of their preseason games, they were using him as the fullback, when they did that for the first time, I was like, huh. That shows me they're looking for different ways to use him and the ways that they can use him. They're not using that with Kuntz yet, and I think Kuntz is probably another guy where you can keep on the practice squad if you want to and keep trying to develop him, because that's what he was coming out of Kutztown, right? I think he's a big dude, big fast dude, but just needed some time to develop. I don't necessarily know if he's there yet in terms of the development with like he's ready to be considered an option on a game day, like Ruckert is, like Conklin is, and like Yeboah can be. So unfortunately, I don't think Kuntz makes it over Yeboah if the Jets go with those 3.
Doesn't he remind you of Sudfeld? Remember, like Sudfeld was like baby Gronk and whatnot. Like I like Kuntz a lot. I just feel like stash him away. You never know what you can get with him. But he reminds me a lot of what you said before. Like you have all these players that are good in preseason, then you let them go and no one else picks them up. I think he fits that kind of mold. Johnny Boy, thank you so much. Call in later, man. All right.
Yep, I appreciate you guys. Connor, pleasure, man. Keep
appreciate
going, man. I love hearing when you give those hard questions during the interview. That's awesome, bro.
Yeah, I appreciate you, man. Thank you.
Go Knicks.
There we go.
So now we got one from Vinny, and this one's a big one. We didn't even touch on it. Question: more likely to happen, Reddick reporting to the Jets or Devontae Adams a Jet by the deadline? This is a big one.
So I say this about Devontae all the time because people have asked me this a ton. Not as much lately. The minute that the Raiders are willing to trade him, I believe that he will be a Jet. So that's the key, though, is like it's the Raiders at the deadline last year were not willing to trade him. Like they were not. So the Jets called and they were like, he's not available. And the Jets said, okay, he's not available. Like that's the issue, is that these guys need to actually be available for them to be traded for. So with him, that's the thing, is that once he is made available, once the Raiders say we are fielding calls, we are willing to move Devontae Adams, I do genuinely believe the Jets are going to get him. Maybe the 49ers come into the mix there a little bit, but I just think his relationship with Rodgers will make that happen, especially if the Jets are in the mix and Woody Johnson sees an opportunity to take this team and potentially get him over the hump to make the playoffs, to make a run. I think he'll sign off in making that happen. With Reddick, I am far less certain on anything. I know, and I've talked about it ad nauseum at this point, the Jets side of things and where they stand with Reddick and what they feel and what they think, yada, 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 blah, blah, blah. My thing is that I don't know Reddick personally. I'm not close with Tory Dandy, his representation, but I have talked to a couple of people that know Reddick, that know Reddick personally, and they have told me that he is the type of guy that would basically get ticked off enough and pissed off enough and just say, screw it, I guess I'm not playing this year. Like, all right, that's fine. All right, I'll sit. I won't make my $14.5 million. That's fine. I'm just not going to play this year. I'm out. And like, he is that, like, sometimes committed and just like, all right, fine. Then I guess I'm not going to play. Like, that's the type of, like, he's not blowing smoke. Yep. He's not a guy that's kind of playing cat and mouse. He's really like, all right, if you're not going to pay me, I'm going to sit out. And honestly, guys, the big thing with Reddick, and I've said this a ton, it all comes down to leverage. Right now, the Jets have it because the Jets can sit here when we haven't had no games, and the only thing you see is the highlights that they put out, and they can say Michael Clemens is a lot better, and we believe he can be our starting defensive end. Will McDonald's a lot better and a lot stronger, and he can fill in for Bryce Huff and be our situational pass rusher. Until there is actual game film evidence that is not the case, the Jets will continue to have the leverage. If they go into San Francisco, get their ass kicked, and don't sniff Brock Purdy, then Hassan Reddick is going to laugh and say, pay me my money. And then the Jets lose their leverage. So that's really what we're waiting for right now, is for somebody to blink. The Jets have been very committed in the sources that I've talked to, and that they are not going to pay him until he shows up. Reddick, from everything I've heard, is not willing to show up until he gets paid. So it's the waiting game. And until something changes where leverage shifts, I don't know what's going to end this. I really don't.
Now, not for nothing. I'm sorry, Liam. I'm going to throw it right back to you. But as a Jet fan, and many Jet fans, this is not surprising. Like trading for a holdout, and then the holdout wants to get traded away from the Jets. It's like it goes into the annals of Geno Smith getting his jaw broken by his own teammate, Darnold getting mono. Like, it's like, all right, you know what? Let's get this season underway already, because if that's the distraction, I think we've been through worse. And as much as I like and I love Reddick, what he brings a different dimension to this team. Like, let's not make any bones about it.
Oh, they're a lot better. Dude had double-digit sacks last 4 years. Like, that's he's a damn good pass rusher. Yeah.
But with that being said, it's like, at what point are the Jets going to lose leverage? And I think you nailed it on that. God forbid they crap the bed. At that point, they will have no other option but to do so. But not for nothing, from your vantage point, let's say you're a different team, you're another team, and you're seeing this. Would you trade for him and give him the bag?
Dude, here's what people need to realize. The Jets acquired Hassan Reddick for a third-round pick 2 years from now. 2 years from now. Like, if the Eagles had any better option, don't you think they would have done that deal? Like, if they would have been able to get a fourth-round pick this coming year or a fifth-round pick next year, that takes precedence over a third-round pick 2 full years from now, a conditional third-round pick at that. That's the thing that Reddick asked for a trade before, and nobody wanted him because no one was willing to pay for him. Right. The Jets were able to get him for nothing. So the market's just not there for him. Now, why? I don't know. I mean, he's going on as like his fourth team in 5 years, I think it is, right? Or
Yeah.
third team in 4 years, whatever that number
Exactly.
is. There's something to that. He also is just a pass rusher. He does not play the run at all. That's what rubbed a lot of people in Philly the wrong way, is that he's sold out to get sacks. Now the Jets don't give a shit about that. They're like, dude, you're going to get 12 sacks. Go ahead, sell out for sacks. We don't care. Get us those 12 sacks. That's fine. But like, there's a reason why a lot of other teams didn't want him, is because they weren't willing to pay compensation to then also pay him. There's a limit on what they were, and he wanted 25 to 28 million. I heard that people were laughing to Howie Roseman when they called him and they were talking. He's like, that's how much he wants. They're like, okay, like it's not happening. So ultimately, there is not a market out there for him at the moment. The Jets have told him very clearly, we are not trading you. It's not happening. We're not trading you. So now it's just a waiting game to see who blinks first. And the Jets are not going to blink until it's very clear that they need him. And right now, they can sit there and say, we don't need him, we don't need him, we don't need him, until there is tangible evidence and proof that they do. And that comes week 1 and week 2 when they can't get to the quarterback.
Now, when they did trade for him, did his agent and himself make it clear that he wanted a new contract and they still traded for him?
His side made it clear that they wanted a new contract. That was known because the world knew that. The world knew that that Hassan Reddick wanted a deal. That's why the Eagles traded him. Like, if Reddick didn't want a deal, the Eagles wouldn't have traded him. What I was told from the Jets is that Reddick's representation told him that we will play on the current deal. We will play on this current deal, and we will work towards a new contract. And if I'll ball out in the middle of the season, and we'll sign an extension midway through, like the Jets did with John Franklin Myers a couple years ago. Reddick's side is saying that never happened. So it's a he said, she said, or he said right now.
Oof.
Yeah, but with that being said, though, if you listen to his press conference, the only time I'm sure he was ever at the Jets facility,
that was the only time he was at the facility. Yeah, correct.
He had said that he was gonna play.
Yeah, and
essentially,
his stance on that now is that he thought he was going to get a new deal shortly thereafter. The Jets said that you didn't say that. Your agent told us you were going to play no matter what. It's, again, dude,
it's messy.
I totally get it. Yeah, it's literally a he said this, he said that. There's no literal recording of what these conversations had. It's not like the Jets were on Hard Knocks where you can flip back like the Giants and hear the Joe Shane, Saquon Barkley talks. So that's the unfortunate part of it. But the Jets are held like. Here's my thing that I always go back to. Joe Douglas, you can criticize him for a lot of things, and you can say a lot of things about Joe Douglas. Mm-hmm. The guy's not a liar. Like, and never has Joe Douglas been a liar. If anything, he's honest and truthful to a fault. This isn't like Mike McCagnon. This isn't like John Idzik. This isn't like some other GMs. I mean, he is a very honorable, trustful, truthful guy. So I do find it hard to believe that Joe would have said to Hassan Reddick, we are going to give you a new contract. And then all of a sudden the trade goes through and goes, psych, we're not doing it. Like, that's just not how he does business. In fact, from what I've been told, he was very upfront and honest about what needed to happen and why they weren't able to pay him at this very moment. So, well, again, it's something was lost, but clearly something was lost in translation.
Connor, we got to just, number one, thank you again for coming on. We're going to hit you up with just one more question before you go. And again, this is more looking towards the future, crystal ball and everything. You've been surrounded, unfortunately, with bad quarterbacks at one Jets try, like a lot.
Yeah.
Now, when you look at someone like Jordan Travis, right? You look at him, yes, he's raw and whatnot, but had it not been for that injury at Florida State, maybe he would have been drafted a little bit higher.
Third round.
You see something?
Third round grade on him.
Yeah, somewhere around there. Where, let's say we're going the Green Bay Packer route, where Aaron Rodgers stays here probably 2 or 3 more years. Do you see that this guy might be that kind of successor, or just have to look elsewhere?
Unfortunately, I haven't seen. I wish I could tell you, but like literally he hasn't done anything. Like, so he throws off on the side field with a coach, but like he hasn't done, because he's on the pup, he hasn't done individuals, no 7-on-7, 11 on, like, I don't know. I mean, he throws off on the side and it looks good, but like it's literally throwing to a coach. Like, he hasn't done anything. And I'm not in the meetings to be able to tell you like, oh, he seems like he's got it mentally. I know that a lot of the coaching staff likes him. I know that Rodgers likes him a lot and thinks the potential is high. And I know that the Jets feel that if he had not gotten hurt, he's probably a 3rd round pick. So there's certainly a lot of value there with where they got him.
Right.
But I don't necessarily know. I will say you made a good point about like not covering good quarterbacks. It's true. I've covered such shit for literally my entire career.
Dude,
we've seen it.
Watching Aaron Rodgers though,
and I have all of their jerseys.
Yeah, watching Rodgers though, dude. Like you think it's different, it is so different. The way that it and like he doesn't always look right. Like that's the difference between him and like when Joe Flacco was here. Like I actually talked to Joe Douglas about this because when Joe Flacco would play quarterback in practice, it was so technically sound. And now he was with the Jets, he couldn't really move anymore. So like it was like you knew he wasn't like a franchise quarterback. He was too old. He couldn't move like it, but he could still throw the ball better than anyone aside from Rodgers. And like when he would throw, his drop back, his stance, his throwing motion, how tight the spiral was, his arm angle, like it was literally build a quarterback. Like it was build a quarterback. That's what a pocket passer is supposed to look like was Joe Flacco. And then obviously again, Jets didn't have the offensive line, so they couldn't keep him upright. If they could have, maybe he does what he did for Cleveland last year. But it looked so perfect. Rodgers, the drop back, the footwork, the arm, it doesn't always look right. Like truly, like he threw a touchdown yesterday where he's standing like this, flat-footed, and then just whips his hand and it's a touch. Like that doesn't look right. That's not you look up how to play quarterback, and that's not in the book. Like that is like, don't do this, and he does it and it works. But the way that the ball just flies out of this guy's hand just by flicking, it is like nothing I've ever seen. It takes me back to just being a kid who liked football. Like just being a young kid who fell in love with this game and like watching one of the 5 most talented players to ever throw a football, throw the football. It's remarkable. And like the 2 examples I'll give you is in Charlotte, I was standing behind Rodgers, the way they had the media positioned, watching him do individual drills, just throwing to running backs and tight ends and receivers. And like probably 15, 20 yards back, but still like behind him. Watching the way the ball on a frozen rope just flew out of his hands with a little flick of the wrist, just in one-on-one individual drills, freaking remarkable. And then, you become accustomed to it because you see it so often. Again, I split time between Giants and Jets, but like I'm with the Jets a lot, so you become used to like, okay, this is just who Aaron Rodgers is. It's so funny to see people who aren't around him often watch him practice. So like I was standing next to Darryl Slater, who used to cover the Jets, now he covers the Giants for the Star Ledger. One of my very good friends, and we're standing there and we're watching Rodgers' 2-minute drill to go down the field at the end of the joint practice with the Giants. And he throws that touchdown to Lazard in the 2-minute drill. And Darryl turned around and looks at me and he just starts laughing. And he goes, "What the F?" And just like, and he goes like, "What? Like, what the fuck was that? Like, what was that?" And he goes like, "Connor," because he's standing flat-footed with Brian Burns bearing down on him, and he just flicks his wrist sidearm and he hits Lazard for the touchdown on a laser where Lazard's covered tightly by Hawkins. And he just fights it in there, hits him in his gut, back of the end zone for the touchdown from 5 yards out. And he's like, he goes, "What the like just F-bomb after F-bomb." And I'm like, that's the like again, and it's wild because again, this is a guy. He's not one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL, or he's not only one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. You're talking about one of the 5 most talented throwers to ever walk the earth. Yeah. And he's like watching him, even at this age, it is remarkable to see. It's really, really cool. And like, it's kind of like it transports you back to just being a kid who likes football and like playing with him in Madden when you were a kid for the Packers, like all that stuff. It's real. Like it's not lost on me being able to just like the appreciation of just being able to watch him practice because it's fun. Like it really, again, people can hate him for a million other reasons, but just from a playing football quarterbacking perspective, it really is just fun watching him play because he does some things where it's like, again, what the hell? Like, what was that? And he's like, "Oh, no, I don't know if I'll ever see that again."
It sounds like deja vu. You know why? Because I hear a lot of old timers that they speak the same way about Joe Namath, how he used to throw the ball. And now just hearing this about A-Rod just brings so much joy to your New York Jets fan to think, you know what? This is probably it, man. This is it. So
you can try to find quarterbacks next 30 years, and it's like you might find a franchise one, but you're not going to find one as good as this guy. And like it's really cool watching him play. Now again, like I have said this when the Jets had drafted Hackenberg and Petty and Sam and Zach, is that I don't have a franchise quarterback to compare him to. I don't know what it looks like. I even the closest I got was Eli Manning in 2014. And if you guys remember, that was his first year with Ben McAdoo, and he was a disaster that training camp because it was his first time learning an offense that wasn't Kevin Gilbride's. Or I think he had another offensive coordinator his first year, but then Gilbride for like 12 of his seasons, and then he switched over to McAdoo. And I remember saying, like, even he stunk there, where like I couldn't figure it out. Like I had never seen one, so it was like, yeah, okay, like this guy looks a little different than that guy, but does that mean like I didn't see Andrew Luck to know or anything like that? Now I've seen one, and I can tell you it looks different. Like it looks really, really different. Yeah.
Now the last one I'm going to ask you, and it's the Jet fan in me. I have to ask you.
Yeah.
You're somebody in the building almost every day. You're around the team. What is your season prediction?
I think they'll start slow-ish, just be like 500, just because there's so many new pieces they're going to need to gel, and they're going to need to find you. I mean, even Rodgers hasn't played a full game, and since they lost that game to the Lions in Lambeau to be eliminated from the playoffs. I think they're going to start slow. I think they'll probably win 10 games. Maybe if things break their way, they can win 11. But what I will say is I don't think they'll win the division, but I think they'll be that team that in December, all the headlines on like Fox and CBS and ESPN and SNY and all that stuff are going to be like, the teams you don't want to see, the teams you don't want to face. Like, oh, this is the team no one wants to play in the playoffs. I think that'll be the Jets. I think the Jets will be the team that no one wants to see in the playoffs because they'll be peaking at the right time. They'll be getting hot in October, November, December, and really start to roll and get things going, which is when you want to. And then once you're in the playoffs, guys, obviously anything can happen.
King, we got to thank you, man. I'm telling you.
I appreciate you guys. Thank you so much for having me.
We appreciate you so much, man. You're always more than welcome to come on here. And thank you for just, again, spitting facts here. We appreciate you so much. Keep doing the amazing work that you do. Again, you're like the ballsiest journalist. And this is why all of Jet Nations love you.
I appreciate you guys. Thank you so much.
Have a great night.
Have a good night, Connor.
Was that awesome? Or
that was so awesome. Awesome.
Yo, man. I mean, it just tells you. It just speaks volumes of what we have. You keep on saying it. Last week's show, you said it just doesn't feel real. It doesn't feel real. And I think to a lot of Jet fans, it's come to the point where it's normal. It's like, oh, we got Aaron Rodgers. Nah, dude, you honed it down last week. And it is not normal. This is not normal for a New York Jet fan. We're used to, I'm sorry, I'm going to throw these names out there because this is what was great for us. Testaverde, Ken O'Brien, Mark Sanchez, Brett Favre. Brett Favre, great, right? 8-3, crap the bed. We got a Hall of Fame player. Pennington, another guy, right? We love these players. We love them. No, I don't love him. I don't like him. No. What he did in New England, and I was at a bar there. That was like pre-COVID, like 2 months before COVID.
Yep.
He gave me that. Anyway, besides that, it's with Rodgers, it gives you that kind of feeling where it's very Tom Brady. It's very Peyton Manning, that it's tangible. Like the New York Jets, at this time next year, we could be defending world champs. And it's not hyperbole. It's not something where you're like, come on, man, you're a Jet fan, green colored glasses. I should expect the worst. But at this point, when you look at the offensive line, you look at the weapons that we have and the potential, just like Connor Hughes said just now, if the Raiders are just crap in the bed and Devontae Adams becomes available, I don't want to hear any Jet fans saying, we don't need him. Because they're going to be Jet fans like that. We don't need him. Nah, man. I'd love him.
Dan, Garrett Wilson, Mike Williams, Malachi Corley. Or not even that. Listen to this. Garrett Wilson, Mike Williams, Adams. Dude, who's stopping that?
Oh, my God.
Who's stopping that?
Oh, my God.
You could have a team of 3 sauces on your team. Right. Somebody's getting open. And
we're failing to mention Breece Hall and Braylon Allen. Like we're forgetting about them. And we're forgetting about our tight ends as well. I mean, the guy that goes under the radar, Conklin. I get it. I get people are on the fence. That guy's a monster, bro.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, he's a beast. Him, Ruckert is coming into his own. And yes, again, we don't know who the third tight end is. At that point, I couldn't care less because, again, Rodgers made the guy that we signed last year in the Lizard. He made him. So
making lizards,
man, and now
making cobblers.
Let's bring on Johnny Boy. Oh man,
All right.
What's going on?
Whoa.
What's up, guys? Dude, what an awesome thing with Connor, man. Him talking about 4 to 5 years possibility with Aaron, right? I hope the Jets gods give this to us because we've dealt with such crappy ass cards for so long already to be able to have him for that long.
Right.
Holy moly, man. And the insight that Connor was giving right now to you guys. Awesome.
Good stuff.
Awesome,
good
man.
stuff.
To me, it's that Devontae Adams one. To me, that's big because, again, if this guy still wants to play hardball, Hassan Reddick, to me, I have to be honest, maybe I came to grips with it. He's an afterthought for me. He's a luxury. And as much as he brings a very good dimension to this team, he's a luxury at this point. We don't, I don't want to say we don't need him and this and that, but it's like, you know what? This defense can live without him. It would be great to have him. But as the year goes on, he doesn't show up. He wants to be stubborn. Before the deadline, I'd rather give it to someone that wants to be here in Devontae Adams. And I'm cool with it. And that spin move that McDonald did last week, I get it is against second and third. I don't care. Because even Vernon Golston couldn't make a sack with like the JV club out of Pee Wee Football League. He couldn't do that. These are progressions. Now come the first game of the season against Purdy, the Niners don't know who McDonald is. They have no idea who this guy is. It's just my 2 cents.
Hey, listen, I'm gonna go ahead, Johnny.
I mean, for me, with McDonald, right? Because you touching on that, he's supposed to do that against the second and third stringer guys.
Absolutely.
When you got players that are going out there that are wanting to fight for a roster spot, and if they're getting beat down by that, that talks to you right there. Like, okay, this guy is not what everybody's talking about. Big one is what he just said about Brownlee, right? The whole Brownlee stuff like that. I like Brownlee. The story's awesome and everything, you know, but it is what it is. You see it on tape and you're seeing what's occurring onto it. That people are going to say, well, he had a touchdown on us. He should be having 2, 3, 4, 5 touchdowns within the players that they're playing. They're going against cats that were at Sam's Club like 3 weeks ago, right? Working with nothing wrong with working at Sam's Club, right? But you've been in the league already, kind of knowing what's up. So you should be destroying these guys.
Yes. I know a good friend named Tony that works at Sam's Club. He also tried out for the Rams. Not good. He got cut, but I totally understand where you're coming from. Johnny, now I think Liam, you staying or you going? What you doing?
I got to get ready to go, actually. I would love to stay.
Johnny boy, you want to co-host with me?
I'm actually going to head out, man. If you hear the kid, I wanted to come up here real quick and show some love real fast, man. Like, you guys are killing it as always.
You, man.
So
see if Armand wants to come on.
So my bad, dude. I normally would, you know, but
next time.
No worries, man. Him and whatnot.
We have to at this time because once Jet season starts, it's a wrap, man. It's a wrap.
Hey, well, the whole fam is Jet fans, so
yeah.
they all watch it all here. I mean,
that's what I'm saying. It's a whole family function.
It has to be, man. And hey, I got to get you guys on the show at some time. I was speaking with Leon a little bit earlier and all that. Once we do the special edition content of Jets creators on there, we would love to have both of you guys on there. So
yeah, I'm down, man. It's just this weekend. That's actually why I got to go. I'm getting ready to head out for vacation for this weekend. So
nice, enjoy it.
Thank you, man.
Dan, Liam, I appreciate you. Go Jets.
Yes, sir, Johnny. So now, Liam,
you want to clip this?
You're leaving me, huh?
I'm sorry.
Not even Afton wants to come on.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing. Like, also, like, I didn't want to say in front of Connor. I've been wrestling my microphone all night.
Thing, yeah, man. That looks like RoboCop's junk right at you. Right? It keeps moving around. It's. I knew it wasn't silver. I know it wasn't the sides of it. It's definitely not silver.
I was sitting sideways and like my arm was just going so tired. I'm like, let me try this, and then I was like, I hope I'm not too close.
Right.
So next week, there will be a new mic stand. It's always something, man. It's always something. I got all the tech issues where I got that all figured out, and now the hardware starts falling apart. I don't know. They don't want me to have a podcast. They don't want me to do it. But
No.
do it.
You got to fight it. You got to fight through it. You know what? Listen, guys, this has been fun. Again, we promise probably next weekend we're gonna have another guest next weekend. Again, when we have a guest on, you guys can click on the link, talk to them. Obviously, be respectful, cordial, just like Johnny Boy has. Please don't F-bomb our guest and whatnot. You get to F-bomb us. That's fine. Well, it's no problem. You know what? It's part of the season. Also, what we also want to let you guys know is something extremely important. After Jet games, right? Whether if it's a 4:00 game, 1:00, or even late night, we do something called Jets Insomniacs. So we go on live probably around 11 p.m., 12, midnight. And if you can't sleep, just thinking about the Jets and whatnot, call in, just speak your mind and enjoy it. Now, whoever is just listening to us right now and watching either on Twitter or YouTube, hit the subscribe button. It really helps us out. We're trying to get to 1,000. And then from there, we take off and whatnot. All this is for you guys. We get our content, we get our guests. It's all for you guys. So we thank you. We'll be back next week. Any closing thoughts, Liam? What you got?
I got a lot, man. Let me just tell you, in all seriousness, I am just so ready for the season to start. Where last year, it felt like it took forever because we hadn't seen Rodgers in a Jet jersey before, but it's coming quicker than it did last year. I'm just so ready for the season, man. Just to shut all the haters up because they're, even the NFL, they were posting Rodgers year 20 and people are laughing in the comments. Oh, I saw one today. Oh, he's good for 9 plays this year. I am just so ready to put that stuff to bed.
Yes, totally.
And nobody more than Aaron Rodgers is aware of this. Now, granted, he doesn't see every comment, but he knows what's going on. And you best believe that there's going to be some anger coming out of Aaron Rodgers week 1. This whole season, this is going to be the Aaron Rodgers revenge tour. And I'm here for it, man.
It'd be like the Hulk. The Hulk.
Yes.
He's green. You got the green.
He's got the green.
How nice were those jerseys, man?
Dude.
Right?
I hate wearing this thing. I hate
looking at it.
I know. I got to go buy a new one. See, I was telling my girl, she doesn't understand. You just bought a brand new one last year. I said, yeah, but this is junk.
Right.
And she's like, well, it wasn't junk last year. I said, no, because it's what I was working with.
You can't even donate it. They'll give it right back. They're
I have donated it, and it somehow ended up on my doorstep again. I gave it to the homeless guy. The homeless guy gave me $5 and gave it back.
He said, no, Liam. No, not this time.
No, thank you.
Not this time, Satan. Not this time. No. Yeah, you're not going to do that to me.
Yeah, but
did he get hurt?
I appreciate you guys. Yeah, it wasn't nice, but
not good.
But I appreciate you guys bearing with me as I fight my microphone. It's kind of winning actually because my arm is tired.
Arm on. Screw the haters. You gotta screw the haters.
But next week, guys, call in.
Definitely. Guys, we will see you soon. And again, call in, just like Liam had said. Go Jets. And we are inching closer now, man. We are getting there. We're about to take off. Week 1 is right around the corner, Monday night. So
18 days from tomorrow.
18 days. That's Mike Williams days.
I've been doing my little countdown. I miss a couple days, but
I thought you were going to say Kegels.
Yeah, my little Kegels.
18 Kegels a day, 17 Kegels a day. Whatever works, man.
It gets me through.
It's all about the perennium. All right, guys. Everybody, enjoy your Thursday night. Go Jets, everybody.
Quarterback, Ken O'Brien of California Davis.
Just 14 that first time, now going long. They got a wide open man, and he makes the catch. It's Braylon Edwards taking off. Braylon Edwards will take it home for the touchdown. 80.
First down in San Diego territory at the 47-yard line. Big draw. And Pennington going for 6. Deep down the field, and it's caught by Santana Moss.